Got it. All right.
Hi.
Hi.
Officially hi. So,
Jazz.
my my first guest and one of my best friends ever has been for years. I'm so excited to have you here. And I think that I will just let you do your thing and I'll jump in whenever I feel like I'm going to jump in. And to anybody that is watching the captions, just know that I have no control over them. I turn them on. So that's the Zoom thing if they're off, if they're a little wonky. And we're both a little bit sick. So, uh, yeah, if I get any sniffles, I'll mute myself real quick and deal with that. All right, I will just I'll let you introduce yourself. That way you can share all the parts that you want known and leave out the stuff that you don't.
I'm Brittany Balthaser. I am 35 years old. I'm a mom. I'm also a Army veteran. I served in OIF in 2007 to 2008 during the surge in Iraq, and then I served another year overseas. Um, I went to culinary school after that. That was before I was married, and that's where I met my husband while I was living in Texas, going to school. He was at Fort Hood. We did the non-traditional thing and got pregnant, and then got married. So definitely not the normal. Well, I guess maybe it is normal nowadays to get pregnant and have a relationship, but not the traditional in my family is to get married. But there's a lot of us that got pregnant first and got married. And then I've traveled with my husband who's active duty. I ended up getting out in 2014 from the military just to raise my family, and the politics weren't in it for me anymore. um I never really got to work as a chef or anything like that. My passion does lie in food. It's more about connecting people and um, just getting to know other people, because everybody has to eat food. It doesn't matter what kind of food it is. It's just that everybody connects through food because they have to eat, and we can break bread together. And there's so much that happens. Even in Iraq, they sit down at tea and they break bread in a different way. So that is a big cultural thing to me, is everybody has to eat. So I like to connect people through that, and get them to see even some of their background, things that come from their childhood or the food that they made or their families made can connect. Every country in the world has a type of dumpling. Every country in the world has some sort of um, soup or something that but it's all sort of tied together, that they are very interconnected. They've all crossed boundaries and somehow connected in some way or another. And then I ended up having another child in 2015, which is Ian. I had my first child's Irie, and we um, moved all over. I currently live in Kansas. This would be our last final duty station before he retires. And so very happy about that, ready to just put roots down somewhere. And I decided I was going to I had pursued my bachelor's degree right around the time I had Ian. I decided to pursue that and got my bachelor's degree in culinary management from Le Cordon Bleu. Again, still wasn't really working. We moved to Alaska right around the time that Ian was 3, and I got a job with the college up the university up there as a nutrition educator. So I got to work with K through 12 kids and families that needed education on even just using the basics of foods. And it was really a really great experience, just to see the need and to connect with those kids in different ways, especially those that didn't have a lot of food at home. So we were able to find ways to incorporate those minimal ingredients into great meals for them and their families. And I taught them some new recipes that they could share with their families, and that was really great. Working with the teenagers was really interesting, and just really valuing their input, especially those that might not have been living at home, have been living in with their aunts or even homeless. Very interesting dynamic there. So I really got my tugs at your heartstrings. I like to work with the community a lot, and that's where I really feel passionate about, is working in some sort of community-based working programs or nonprofit work. We moved to Kansas 2021. Yeah, after COVID. And I wasn't planning on working or anything until my husband was going through that last. The way the Army works is you gotta re-enlist, and he hadn't re-enlisted finally for his last few years, and so he had found out he still had more GI Bill, and he wasn't planning on using it and had already passed it on to me for the first time. So I ended up finding out I could do that, and I was like, well, why not pursue my master's? I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I ended up picking hospitality and tourism because it had more of a general thing, and I could kind of take what I wanted from it and use it. And that's how I ended up doing my internship and working for Main Street, which is a national program, but we have one here in town. There's only a few in each state, but they work to revitalize downtown communities through tourism, through economic development, through beautification. So they work to just bring people back bring that downtown back to life. And they even work in larger cities. So they work to like take away some of those stigmatisms from different places and just bring it back to life. It's really cool to see the networking and the opportunity there. So I currently am the assistant manager for a newly formed farmers market in our city on Saturdays. And that's definitely been very interesting. I'm very much a people person. So it's been a great thing for me because I get to interact with as many people as possible. But it's definitely had its stressors. And so this year I've had to learn a lot about, saying no to people when I'm overwhelmed. And, this is not in my line of duty. I'm like, no, I can't do this. And then also advocating for others that may not be able to say no for themselves. Sometimes there's people that are pushovers and are just not willing. I'm a yes person, but I see people that get taken advantage of because they don't know how to say no. And then also knowing when to ask for help. So little known fact about me is I have issues from the military, and it took me 13 years to fight for my disability with the military, which I would not recommend. So if you are a veteran struggling with the idea of going to the VA for help, do it. I mean, you deserve it. You earned it. Yes, it's a pain in the ass. Excuse my French, but I regret every single day that I didn't fight it. My mom will let me know every single day that I should have done it 12 to 13 years ago. I have chronic fatigue, sleep apnea. I also have something other than PTSD, and I'm still working that one out. But I started seeing a therapist at the end of last year, and it's been really wonderful to just have somebody to talk to, and also just to work out my own emotions with my life and the things, and knowing that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say enough is enough, or like, I can't deal with something and I need to figure out how to deal with it. I'm learning to do coping mechanisms with my anxiety, and knowing that I can go 110% and still keep going, but I'm giving myself away in the process, and I'm not taking care of myself. And that's been really eye-opening. Just, she says you need to take care of yourself, and I've been slowly doing that. I started doing a weight loss program this year because I had gained so much weight and was, I should be a lot smaller. And, through kids, through stress, through, just everything, I was in an unhealthy place mentally and physically. And as of basically as of last week, I'm down 35 pounds. So, I mean, I was only supposed to lose it. Like their threshold for weight loss in this program is you lose 8 pounds within the first 6 months. Well, I definitely lost way more than that. So I still have a ways to go, but it's, seeing that transformation physically, mentally is definitely eye-opening. And I think more people could use, somebody to talk to, somebody to just, get feedback from that's non-judgmental. Sometimes I ask her, sometimes she'll go, she's like, don't take offense to this. And, you have to be like, okay with hearing some of the bad stuff, because sometimes the things coming out of my mouth are bad, but I don't hear them myself. It's hearing them from them that makes it even like, okay, that's reality. But also learning to juggle the need and the want to do 110%, but only being able to do it with like, my gas line sitting at empty. Like it's been definitely interesting. So, and I volunteer full time as well. On top of all the other things I do, I volunteer in the community for our spouses club on post, and we raise money for scholarships and grants. And so I do a lot. I do a cooking club for the spouses club so that people get connected to each other and maybe make friends or make some notable friendships like we did back in the day. I mean, we made friends somehow. I don't like our husbands introduced us, but um, but
X for me.
ex-husband, yes, absolutely. Ex-husband, sometimes that's okay too. It's okay to move on. um, but I don't know anything because I never moved on from my husband.
It worked out very well for the two of
Yeah,
you.
I think, some people are not meant to be together forever. You live a lifetime, you learn a lot from that person, and then you got to move on, and that's okay. Healthy or unhealthy, so, and sometimes it's unhealthy, yeah, to stay together in that way.
Yeah.
You can interject whatever you want.
Yeah, I think relationships are really fascinating. And that's one of the reasons why it kind of became one of my specialties in my realm of psychology and coaching, because I'm not planning on being a licensed therapist ever, but it's really fascinating that even really healthy relationships sometimes come to an end. And then obviously the really toxic ones, it seems like those are even more difficult sometimes to get out of, because there's like so many nuances to that.
Mhm.
I would not say that mine was a healthy one, but whatever. I learned.
You lived and you learned,
I learned.
and you moved on.
Yes.
Healthy too. Um,
So
yeah,
to
go
sorry, go
ahead.
ahead.
I've been married to Eric, going, well, I mean, 14 years in May. So next May will be 14. So we're not, I don't think we're the normal couple. A lot of people say we're like that couple that just seems to hash it out. And I'm like, that's just because we have our own hobbies. We have, we have lives outside of each other. And I tell people all the time, you can't live for your spouse. You got to live for yourself. You got to have stuff for yourself, and you absolutely should be close and you should have things, but there should be like, you should have things that go out for you. For him, he's a hunter. He likes the outdoors. That's always gonna be him. I don't hunt necessarily. I'm willing to hunt, but it's just really not my hobby. Just like I like food and I like reading and I like to go to the movie. I mean, he likes the movies and stuff, but like there are some things that we don't have in common, and it's absolutely okay. And when we first got together, we thought we had a lot more in common than we did, and we don't have as much in common. So we're sort of like opposites attract to some extent. And my husband's like quiet and reserved until he knows you well. And then he's completely the different kind of person. He's like
Classic introvert.
yeah, classic introvert. He can be extroverted when he wants to be, if it's the topic he wants to talk about, but you have to really get him drunk to get him really extroverted. uh, but I think our marriage works only because I'm an over communicator and he's not. So I over communicate everything. Sometimes we have our problems too. Like sometimes I feel like he doesn't talk to me, and that's because he says I talk too much. And but at the end of the day, we're still side by side in bed. I might not have the fairy tale relationship that I think other people might have. And maybe that's only for, maybe I'm only seeing from the outside from their point of view. They get like, I have friends that, their husbands wait on them hand and foot and make them dinner and, buy them nice things. My husband that's not his type of love. So, I've had to learn what I'm willing to accept for love, from my husband. And that's okay because my parents see what he does for me. And at times he is quiet and sometimes he doesn't always see, but I think men in general don't always see what we need them to see. And that's any man or any relationship, whether it's a man or a woman or whatever it is that you whoever you are with, there's going to be problems. And ours are just I guess we don't make a big deal out of them until they're a big deal. And I don't think we push them under the rug. We address them as they come. And if it's a big issue, then we address it. But we've always had that agreement. If we felt like we needed to be with someone else, that we would, and we would tell each other, and that would be that. Because I think we're too caught up in things to really worry about what other people, need from us. So I don't know. I think we grow with each other. So that's been interesting to grow with him through his health issues, through mine, and through all the things we live with.
Yeah, I think you all have a really good relationship, and it shows that it doesn't have to be this perfect fairy tale relationship as long as both parties are willing to be present for each other and put in the work and talk about things that need to be talked about, even if you're not a good communicator. And it's funny because you all like he's an introvert, you're an extrovert, I'm an introvert, you're an extrovert, and that's just kind of how we worked because I needed that extrovert to adopt me as a friend.
Yeah. I adopt all my introvert friends.
And we have a lot of things in common, but we also have things that we don't really share in common, and it works really well. And you have been one of my closest friends for so long, even if we don't talk all the time. I love that I can still just like, oh, it's been months. Oh my God, I miss you so much. And you're just like, well, hey, friend.
I
There
make
isn't,
time.
yeah,
That's the thing is people can make time. You can be years apart and reconnect like that. Yes, I can. I'm happy to do it.
yeah.
Um,
And that's the kind of friendships that I appreciate the most because we can continue living and then still reconnect with each other. And it's like no time has passed at all. And I think those are really important friendships to have because I think that it shows how real it is instead of the ones where it's like they just go out and drink all the time and there's no real connection there and they don't actually talk about anything that's valuable or deep at
and I've had a
all.
few of those. I've had a few of those, and you know, and then I think other things happened with some of those relationships. So friendships is that other things interjected, and it wasn't me, it was other things, but wasn't a priority. So, I've had my share. I've had a hard time making friends here because, deep connections are hard to find. And I found a few here and there, but definitely not here. I've struggled. I've met more people older than me, and not even in my age bracket that I connect with more than people my age. It's frustrating. Um, and that's what terrifies me more about transitioning into like my husband transitioning out of the military is
Mhm.
us going to his home, like where he's from. And he really doesn't have a lot of connections from home either.
And being in the country.
Restarting that and like, how do you make friends I'll be 38 years old. I'll be 38. Ah, it's terrifying. But like, I mean, I know I'm really good at communicating with people, but making
Yes.
those deeper connections is sometimes very hard because I sometimes put my heart on my sleeve, but people don't reciprocate that, and a lot of people are afraid, and there's a lot of fear, I think, in being hurt or being um pushed aside, and I absolutely get it, and I just like I want that. I need that connection like we have. Like I need that near me, to have somebody that we can see every weekend or hang out with like as couples. We haven't had that here. It's been harder for our relationship because we don't have that here. Because he's used to having his groups of friends that I hang out with, their spouses that were good friends, like so we're struggling a little, but he's getting ready to go overseas again, so it won't matter anyway.
And that's hard. I don't know if you want to, because you all do it really well. You all handle it really well. I was never like that. Um,
And
I
it's
think,
every couple's different and every person's different. I just tell people like it's on you as a person, figure out what works for you and for your relationship. Like
yeah.
mine's not going to be like another person's at all.
Do you have maybe some advice to people who are new to being a military spouse or potentially becoming one? And because you've seen both sides of
And,
it.
and I don't even say this is not just for the military, it's for anybody that
Distance. Yeah.
has has significant others that are working in places they have to go overseas for quite a while, or they're constantly gone. Because I mean, there are a lot more new jobs out there that people are gone for a long time, and even government workers, things like that. Um, be open and be honest with your spouse, like from the get go, like what you want from your relationship. The one thing that I think helped us from the beginning is when we met, we were looking for a serious relationship. We were also looking for like that solidarity that he came from a divorce, he's a product of divorce. He's had stepmom stepped, and then his mom was his dad was divorced from his mom, and he went through that young. And then my parents are yours, mine, and ours. I'm the ours. So you know I have grandparents that were married 60 years before my grandfather passed. I mean, and I have family members that are married for over 70 years. It's a big deal. It may not be what the norm is anymore to be monogamous, but if you want to be committed to someone, you can show them that commitment. You need to be upfront with them what you expect. And and if that's not being monogamous, that means to be, I know there's open relationships, and I don't care, what kind of relationship you have with it. You got to be open about it though, because you still have that other person in your relationship that is involved. You're intimate with them, you're emotionally intimate, you're mentally intimate with them. And it can be devastating to learn the opposite.
Yeah. I
Um,
agree. It should all be laid out in the beginning before you
Yes,
really
and
catch
that's
feelings.
the biggest problem I think with the military is people are marrying young, and they're doing it for not necessarily the right reasons. And does it mean that I married for the right reasons? Not necessarily. I'm not saying I did either. I was young. I was about 20 23. I got pregnant at 22. I got married at 23, or right before I turned 23. And I didn't want to get married, but there's a caveat, is that I knew he was in the military. I knew he was getting ready to deploy. I knew there was the benefits there. It wasn't for the benefits necessarily, but I knew where his heart lied. And he wouldn't have married me. He wouldn't even have asked me to marry him if he didn't want me to marry him. You got to know, you really have to get like deep down, nitty gritty with that person. And just have them be open with you. Telling him I was pregnant was the most terrifying and very open and eye-opening experience about what you would be as a relationship, very quickly. I mean, you can know just from that reaction what you're going to get. So, you know, I'd say tread lightly if you're planning to, marry somebody that's going into the service. Know that, people in the service are always training for war, no matter whether we're in war or not. They're always training. And to expect the long days and to expect the long hours, and that now you guys are fortunate. It is the amount of technology we have nowadays to allow us to communicate with our spouses. Remember that you don't need 100% communicate every minute of the day though, but to communicate respectfully and healthy and not blow up their phone every 5 minutes. Because realize that when they go overseas, they're doing a job and that they have to focus on that job. Just like if they were at home working in the office, they have to focus on that job too. You can't call them incessantly at the office either. It's the same thing. It's the same concept. Giving them space, because I like to work. I like to have my space at work. I like to have my own like bubble at work because it's something I'm passionate about. Do I want my spouse involved in my work 100%? No, absolutely not. And that's the same for them. So just remembering to give them space, communicate well. I sat through this pre-deployment thing, and I was like, it's stuff I've heard billions of times, knowing being married to him for 13 years. It's like, how do you communicate with your spouse? How do you keep that, how do you maintain communication and relationships when your husband is your spouse is gone, and how do you communicate with your kids, and I was thinking about, I'm like, I make it so they make it sound hard, but it's not hard. It's just, it does take a little work, and it does take being patient and kind to each other through the rough moments. Because like when we were first married, that was when we only had Yahoo Messenger, and there was no Skype, there was no, I mean, that was the beginning of Facebook, really. And I remember I would get maybe like 2 calls a month, and it was like these really crappy videos that you could, and I was sending him videos of Irie as a baby, and it was crazy. And like, and
Yeah.
I say, relish the time that you do have, make the conversations you have with that person productive, not just empty like comments like, I miss you, I love you. Make them productive, like tell them about your day, work with them, like they want to know what's going on. um
Yeah, it seems like sometimes it can help too to maybe write it down, like
mhm.
especially when you have kids because they grow so quickly that the spouse that's gone or the parent that's gone misses out a lot when you don't have that constant ability to communicate, even though it has gotten easier. And also being
And if
careful with dirty stuff that you send.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I honestly, I'll be honest, I haven't said dirty things for a very long time. I almost feel like I've passed that phase. I'm sure you'd appreciate it, but like, Eric's never been that kind of person.
It's just because that I don't live near you. Otherwise, we could totally fix that.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, I'll be honest, I did boudoir photos. Let's see.
I love
We
that.
were in Alaska. I'm not super proud of my body at that time, but I did them because I wanted to feel invigorated about myself. And I did. It felt kind of freeing, and it was really beautiful. And it was beautiful to see other people see their value, whether they're big or little or whatever. All sizes are really beautiful in their natural, place. So it was really cool to see. And if woman or man, whatever you are, if you ever want to do something very freeing, do a boudoir shoot. I will tell you.
And
It's very,
your partner would love it. I'm sure. I've
I
always
don't
wanted to
know.
do.
Because Eric again is an introvert, so I showed him. I don't know what his reactions were.
Oh
Honestly, I'm
yeah,
not sure whatever his thoughts were on him, but I did them for myself and not for him.
that's good.
Remember, you're
Yeah.
doing it for yourself and not for your partner.
Yes.
Always
Although,
do things for yourself, not for your partner.
yeah, I mean, we still definitely want a really good reaction,
Yeah.
but it should definitely be mostly for you. And I think that it really sucks when, like, I'm going to say particularly women, because we have society put so much on us, like, especially millennials. Like, we really hit that time period was like, you got to be this, you have to be that, you need to look like this, and you have to be skinny. Oh, you're still not skinny enough. And wear those tiny little jeans with the tiny little tops. And everybody's like, okay, but we don't look like early 2000s Brittany here.
Yeah, right.
and it's, and we had like, it was just subliminally pushed into our face, and it was overtly pushed into our face to have so much pressure on the way we presented ourselves to the world. And it was showing that there wasn't really any value beyond the way that you looked as well. So I think seeing every time that women do something where she's almost like, I'm taking my power back and this is how I want to do it. I want to take these sexy photos for me. I want to publish these sexy photos for me. And even the ones that decide to sell it, if they're doing it in a way that it's like, this makes me feel powerful and good, then I don't know why that has to become such an attack when
It's U.S. society. It's not
it's so
European.
prudish.
It's brutish. It's prudish. And that's a whole nother topic. The
Yeah.
prudishness of society, especially US society. Because
Yes.
Europe's not like that at all. Um, yeah,
Especially certain parts.
um biggest takeaway to people that are, just starting a relationship, especially one that where they know that their spouse might be doing, I think everyday work is even hard, but like working away from home where they're having to be away is give yourself grace, but also be open to trying different methods of communication with your significant other. Because again, my husband's introverted and there's challenges to communicating with him, he likes to text me. He doesn't necessarily want to talk to me. He wants to text me all his thoughts, especially when he's excited about something. He'll text me a whole bunch and I'm like, oh my gosh. So especially when he's on deployments and stuff, like he'll use the text apps and like, I know when he's lonely because he'll text me a lot, and realize that you can overly communicate with somebody too. I'm an over communicator, but you can put too much on that other person and then you have nothing to talk about the next time you see them because you put way too much out there. So remembering, like, keep it brief if you can. If you have kids, let them talk. Let them tell them about their day. If they're too young, just kind of relish that time, whether it's like a moment, like whether they're walking or crawling or babbling, get some of those videos. That's what they're going to enjoy the most. They just want to be able to see them. My oldest is 13, my youngest is 8, and my youngest probably wouldn't even care that Eric's gone, to be honest. He just doesn't have that. He's got ADHD and a lot of other issues. He doesn't really recognize that social situation of dad being gone. He's only and Eric was gone for like 4 or 5 months, and it honestly didn't bother him. He has his days, but it doesn't bother him like it does Irie. So my daughter, on the other hand, has gone through multiple deployments, and as she's older, she's way more emphatic and let you know this is going to bother me. And I'm dealing with her own mental health issues. So, we have our challenges. And I think every family is going to have its challenges, whether they have medical issues, whether they have mental health issues, whether they don't have any issues, they just are normal and have things breaking when husband leaves, because we all know that, Murphy's Law is something's going to happen as soon as he leaves. And then, my roof's going to get tore off, or, something's going to happen. It happens every single time to anybody that's ever had a deployment under their belt. There's something that happens drastically. And you just have to be able to take a deep breath, and things will work themselves out, whether he's there or not. You are, whether or he or she is there or not, you're empowered to try and do those things on your own. But there's a lot of resources out there to help you get back on your feet. That's the fortunate thing, is people don't realize there's a lot of resources. Even if you're not military, there's lots of resources out there to help you through those things. Now I know telehealth is amazing. You can get therapy on demand, and so, like, there's no excuse not to, like, say, well, I don't have time, or there is literally no excuse. If you're on Facebook like 100%, or you're on TikTok, or you're on, you've got time to talk to somebody, even for like 30 minutes. And I think the first thing I would always say to other people is be honest with yourself, and, just communicate with yourself. Know your cues, know when you're done, know when you're, overloaded. Also know when you're satisfied and you're willing to accept what is happening. Like, I'm looking at applying for a job, and it's like, I have to weigh the pros and cons. Is it worth it? The pros are really good. There's not a ton of cons, but the cons will sometimes be like, am I willing to accept those, or am I not? What would be my hard line? So what are your hard lines in life? That's the key question for you. Are you
Yeah.
willing to negotiate with your partner certain things, or are you not willing to live without them? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I mean, I know that I agree. I think one of the biggest components in relationships is being self-aware for yourself, knowing what you want, what your boundaries are, and what you're absolutely never going to be okay with, and being open about that, especially in the beginning. Unfortunately, a lot of people will agree in the beginning, but then they weren't telling the truth, or they realize later that that doesn't actually align with how they feel. They've changed along the way, maybe, and they have to be able to communicate that, and always being honest, because even one little lie is going to break down the entire And then suddenly everything's gonna, well, what if they're lying about that? Well, what if they're hiding that? And so anytime that somebody is not completely honest, it really messes up the entire integrity of the relationship. Um, but I agree. I think there's, I mean, going back to even further in the conversation, there's every kind of dynamic possible and it's available. And there's billions of people in the world. So there's something for everybody. There's no
Mhm.
reason to lie, no
Yeah.
reason whatsoever. You could tell that person, if you really, really, really want this one person, and you just say to them, like, I want this person so badly, but I don't want a relationship. And just say that. Just say,
Yeah.
listen, I really want you, but I don't want a relationship. Can we just be friends with benefits? Are you okay with that? Like, just be honest about it because you never know. They may want that too, or they may
Yeah.
be okay with that too. And yeah, so I can't deal with liars, but it can be hard to keep up with a relationship with distance, and I realized that that is a big boundary for me personally. I cannot do a distance thing. I can't, because my I want to be in a relationship where that's my best friend. Especially as an introvert, I don't want a bunch of friends. I want my partner to be my best friend, and we can still have our own kind of hobbies, but I need to be able to see you and be with you and not be apart.
Mhm.
And anyway, I think technology has definitely helped keep up with relationships. And um, but going back to the food, because you are an amazing chef. Your food is so good,
Well, thank you.
and you're like the kitchen witch because it like brings everybody together and it makes everybody feel good, and there's such a community about it. And I love that you're able to do that, because not even people that love to cook don't have that ability. They don't have that kind of gift where it's really like a community, a healing kind of experience, where everybody can just get together and have fun and disconnect from their issues for a little while and just have that bond that a lot of people are missing. And I definitely miss being able to do that with you. And I have a ton of issues with food now that I'm really glad that I didn't back when I was able to eat your food because that would have sucked so bad. But because you are the way that you are as a person, which is phenomenal, and I adore you in every way possible, but also the way that you are with food. Have you ever considered opening up like an online community regarding food, and even a space where you're teaching low income families on what you taught before, but doing it in an online space? That way, when you do move, you've still got that community, even though it's not necessarily in person.
It must be the universe today because my therapist today said, "Have you ever thought of teaching?"
Well, there you go,
I
synchronicity.
was a parent educator, but she's like, "Have you ever thought of teaching?" Because I maybe I put it out to the world because even I had a professor even ask, "Have you thought of teaching?"
You're
I'm
really great at it.
I'm I guess I feel like maybe I have some anxiety towards that because I'm like, do I have enough experience? Do I have enough like
You have
relevance
imposter
world? Do I
syndrome.
have enough relevance to this world to teach somebody what I know?
You
Sometimes I feel
do.
maybe I don't feel worldly enough because I've been to places, but I haven't been to all the places. But
But
what I know is from what I do connecting to other people. I
yes.
learn a lot
And
about people, and you've seen me. I can learn something about someone in like 20 minutes. They tell me their whole life story. And I don't know how it happens. It does happen quite often and quite frequently. And I don't know if it's just this face or like the
it's your
body
vibe.
I give off. I'm like, maybe I'm some sort of witch in disguise that has that like, tell me all, like lie, don't lie to me, but and maybe I'm gullible. Who knows? To
No.
some extent, I think sometimes I am gullible. But I wouldn't be opposed to doing like an online community connect people. I was thinking like what a good way to have a business in person too is to like have
Yes.
community dinners. Like, hey, have like Friendsgiving on a whole nother level, like where you do
Yes.
it like monthly and have people, it's a business, but like people, it's kind of like having a murder mystery, but without the mystery of the murder. It's like but like having people come and pay for dinner and just so that they have places to connect with other people and meet other people without
Mhm.
like the strings attached of you needing to go, you're here to meet a date or you're
Yeah.
no, just like family oriented. I really always ask what kind of food I like, what I like to make. And I really always go back to like family style, something that feels homey, something that feels comfortable, whether that's your type of comfortable or my type of homey comfortable. I mean, I don't care what type of food it is. It's what makes you feel like you're at home. And, because again, everybody's definition of what their comfort is different, especially when it comes to food. So, and for me, like I always picture that, very big spread on the table where you have people passing things to each other and being able to just chat back and forth and, almost the food's almost secondary to the experience you have connecting with the people. Um, and like I said, there are so many dishes out there in the world that are very interconnected. I was trying to do some research on dumplings, like dumplings all around the world. There's dumplings in every country, every culture. They have their own type of dumpling. And it's fascinating how, if you look at them, they're pretty similar. They might be cooked slightly different, but they all have like that similarity components. They look the same. They're just made with different ingredients, but again, they're like a staple in households. And so it's like, how do these foods match? Like even bread, like if you look at tortillas, look at pita bread, there are all these different types of flatbreads. There's those all over there too. The Native American culture has their own as well. And so it's like, how can I make people connect with those things and see that you might be from another country, but you guys actually have quite a lot in common,
Yeah.
or that you realize. Um, and I tell people, I get passionate about food because there is, there's no hard stop. Everybody has to eat, period. Whether it's vegetables, whether it's, this a specific diet or not, you still have to eat. You still have to have nourishment. I mean, some people do just eat to live, but and sometimes I do live to eat, but it does have like that's why I've always liked Thanksgiving, because it was the time that my whole family got together and gets together to just share our time and share our what we're experiencing in life right now, and you can't get that kind of time. You just can't get it back. And having had a large family, it's hard to go. Having been military, it's really hard to like have missed out on so much there, and then trying to gain that back's even stranger. We did do Thanksgiving with my brothers last year, really big, but it while it was the same, it wasn't the same. So it was very different. And I'm hoping that I can do that when he retires, to have more people visiting us and just doing those things. So
I
I don't
think
know.
I think it would be an amazing thing. And it would also, I mean, it's in the beginning, and in particular, it's going to put more on your plate.
Yeah,
But
always.
maybe if you did a little at a time, so it's not overwhelming. But I think in the long run, it could be amazing. And I could, if you wanted, I could definitely help you with the business side of things, because I've had to learn a lot of that along the way.
Yeah.
And setting up, if you wanted to do online courses, even if you just wanted that open to anyone, that way it's all really organized really well. And then so you could have an online community, which could even bring in people from every culture possible, and they could bring in their favorite dishes,
Mm,
and everybody could, make someone's dish once a week. Or
yeah.
if you do the community in-person dinners, then all you really need is to find like a community center that is willing to basically rent the space out to you and open that up to the local community. And I think a lot of people would really, especially once it got out there, for
Yeah.
the end, then
And I
they
have
would.
thought about doing after school programs, like if I open my own, which, like I said, I've got a lot of things shuffling in my space. Still want to do Christmas I'm Christmas store now too, so there's that too. You know me.
Yeah.
But I've always fallen back on doing like a small bakery slash like soup store. Bakery being like cookies. Because I
That's
don't.
where you could have the dinners.
Yeah, and well, and I've talked about doing that and making the kitchen so it's like accessible to do after school programming for teenagers to come in or even adults to classes um on basic stuff because just a lot of people don't know anything
Mhm.
anymore. They're so disconnected from their roots, from their cultures, that food is not in that, they just microwave and go, so
Yeah. And it's making a lot of people sick.
mm,
And it's also, yeah. So even looking at the blue zones of the world where everybody's the most healthy and lives the longest, every single one has that component of community and food. It
yeah.
all matters so much. And so, yeah, I'm excited to hear more about this as it unfolds. And I really hope that you
It'll
do
probably be another
go
like
for
2 years
it.
down the road because it's mostly like I've been slowly planning for that move and until I know where we're gonna live in South Carolina.
Yeah.
There's been no major plans made.
Yeah.
Um,
You could start the online part
no, that's true. Um,
because that in
I am
itself is going to
nervous
take
because
time.
like I don't know how well I'm at connecting people online, but who knows? Um, So again, like I'm a chef, but I'm not one that's worked in the restaurant industry, and so I always feel like inadequate in comparison to other people who
No.
don't cook fancy food. I do occasionally do some fancy foods, but like that's not what I do. And like I said, I had connected with somebody here and we were like getting together with a group once a month and stuff. And like, again, that fizzled out. There's somebody I was hoping to be like a really, she's still a friend, but like not a friend. And I was trying to find ways to cook something different every time we were together. So like St. Patrick's Day and just different stuff. But like, yeah, that's where I like to like let's theme it out. Let's have a dinner party every like once a month or once every few months. Let's do a dinner party, but I just haven't made that type of connection with people here that have connected well with me. And that maybe that's the extroverted struggle,
Yeah.
not making the
Well,
connections,
I think
maybe.
it's I think it's just being an adult, especially once you have reached 30s. It's really hard and you move around. If you're in the
Yeah,
same area or you keep those established people that you've had forever, it's different, but making new friends is so hard.
it is gonna be
I
terrifying.
I don't
So,
know anybody here.
and I'm like, I don't know my neighbor. I don't really know my neighbors. And then, yeah, it's like nobody gets to know each other anymore. So it's like I gotta kind of wait those 2 more years till we can like put roots down. And even then, we're gonna be living out of town on a giant piece of land, so still sort of be
Oh, I love
disconnected.
that.
And then, like I'm not. Eric and I are not super like church religious kind of people. His religion is nature, and mine is I grew up religious, but my church is where I find it, and my spirituality is my own, and I believe in what I believe, but I don't need church to do what I need to do. Because I do believe in connecting people and connecting people and doing good things and being involved. And I think that's a big part of, human being like a human is just being connected and making sure people are connecting to each other and being helpful to each other and having that community effort. That's what we lack nowadays because we spend so much time on the internet. So, and that's why I keep telling all these groups and organizations that are struggling to find younger generation is because that's a totally different concept to them. And they don't value that. Like they don't value the group connectedness like that's in person um and it's still needed desperately, especially in these rural towns. And how to bridge that gap, I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely the age of technology has its ups and its downsides, but I think that it's still good to be able to value that community aspect, and it's it has fallen so far behind of what feels good to most people. Most people really enjoy that. Even introverts like me. Like I loved having game nights and having the dinners, and I loved doing stuff like that because it was with people that I love, and it was just I miss doing that. I miss
Yeah.
everything about it.
I miss
And
it too. It's been a long time. I'm so deprived.
I know it's
Deprived.
been years at this point and it sucks. um, but I think if you do implement that, it will be amazing, and it might be a little more difficult and a more, I have a hard time with this word, rural, because I say it like a hick, rural. But
Watch it, your hip
anyway,
side's coming out.
I know. See my accent. I was so good with my accent, except some words I still just can't can't get around them. Anyway, um, I think it could be a really amazing thing. And there's something else that I wanted to say. Oh, yeah. So we can address your imposter syndrome at some point, one on one, outside of this, because you are totally qualified. You could absolutely do it and be phenomenal with it because you you're special. It's not something that you just, try to force. It's just who you are, and you're really, really good at it, and it helps a lot of people, and you are more than qualified. And I have worked in restaurants as a cook, so that is something I could not do. So we're like the opposites of that, because what you can do,
I
even
probably
if
couldn't work in a restaurant either. Not
it's,
anymore.
I don't like it. I don't like the food service industry. I didn't hate it, but it's very physically taxing, and especially with my medical stuff and being in the heat and stuff, my heart does not do well with that. And that's one of the issues that I have with doing it. But I don't think you have to work in a restaurant to do what you want to do, because what you want to do has nothing to do with working in a restaurant anyway.
I know. I know. I'm a people person, what do we expect? Um, yeah, and that's definitely been like, I have this file of things. This is what I'd like to do. But of course, I'm also helping Eric get his dad's business off because he's taking over half of his dad's business, so from his partner. So we'll see how that goes. I may have to help him do a lot of things, but because I'm qualified to do so.
Oh, I didn't know you were doing businessy stuff. So you don't need my help with
Yeah.
businessy stuff.
I mean, I'm good with businessy stuff. Just I'm like, I don't know, online not so much, but
Oh,
um
okay.
uh
That's the
yeah.
part I've had to learn.
I mean, depends because I learn a lot, but then the online thing changes so quickly, you're never kept up with all the new technology anyway. So it's definitely a challenge. But anybody out there that's just, they have an idea, don't, and that's where I'm hoping to help, is also help entrepreneurs. Like with my vendors at my market, a lot of them, it's just a hobby, and they didn't even realize their potential or the potential of their product. And I had a few that they just started selling at markets this year, and they just didn't realize how, you know, what value people see in their products. And so it's been great to see that from their perspective and see it from my perspective, watching them grow. And like I have a vendor, like this weekend is Oktoberfest in our town, and it's a really, like last year it had about 13 to 14,000 people, and this year they're expecting 20. And like some of my vendors are selling at that fest, and they've been prepping, so they haven't been able to come to my market because they've been prepping for that event, because they have to have so much inventory. And they're like, we just didn't realize that we would actually have products that people would want to buy. And so again, that intrinsic value, that value that somebody sees in you and in your product, it's amazing. It's amazing to see the transformation when people get confidence in what they do. Not just me, like I have confidence in things, but again, I see it from my point of view, and then other people have to point it out to me. But it's like, it's really cool to see people see their potential. And especially because some of those people, it's not their day job. They have other jobs outside of what they're doing, but that's what they're passionate about. That's what they love. And seeing that, like them realize it's really cool. And you hope that they go far, even if they only continue to keep it as a hobby because they want to love it and they don't want to hate it. So, yeah. Definitely. Like, so, if you have an idea and you want to do it, do it. Go for it. Never hurts to try it. If you fail, you failed and you tried it. That's the key is you tried it. You failed, but one thing is part of life is failure. You're not always going to be good at something. I'm not 100% good at everything I do. A lot of it I do struggle with. So, it's just, I live and I learn. I get up again and again over and over again, even when I'm not feeling like I'm doing well enough. But you keep trying. And then like I said, with my vendors, it's like they learned what maybe didn't sell well and then they changed what they were doing. They changed up how they display something. They learned from their mistakes and then they got very successful very fast. So it's been really cool to see. And I hope to help cultivate that in South Carolina where we're going to live, because that's what I'd like to do is continue to help develop community. Because again, my business won't be successful if the other businesses around me aren't very successful either. So, because you got to have like that symbiotic relationship with each other. Because, again, community typically has like food, manufacturing, and all those things. They all intertwine and they're all connected. And if, a community is going to buy from inside the community, if you want it to continue to make that circle of life inside your community, you got to have everybody's got to be somewhat successful. Like we lost a restaurant in town, and I think we don't have very many restaurants in town. So like once you lose one, it's like, oh God,
Everybody
you know.
feels it.
So and we're trying to revitalize. And so for a new restaurant to just die, which they weren't paying their taxes. So that's another whole other side. So yeah. But especially one that was on a busy corner where it's supposed to have a lot of traffic, just again, they might have failed, but they tried. So don't consider that a failure. It's just something to work on. I don't even know, a mistake.
A
I don't know,
learning curve.
blip in your radar.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, I think I am jack of all trades, master of none kind
yeah,
of
that's
person.
what I feel like. That's what I feel like
Yeah,
sometimes. Like I said, you said I have imposter syndrome. Yeah, I feel like that sometimes. Like, am I really doing what I'm
I do
doing?
too.
Even in my job right now, like I get a lot of accolades from my boss who's 25. And, like I've lived a long, like I feel like even when I was like 25, I lived a long life way before I even, experienced life. And now I feel like ancient. And, in the army, my husband's considered ancient. So we're considered old. He's called old man all the time. I'm like, God, what does that make me? An old happy. uh,
No.
but like life experience and just I think, you got to value other people's experiences and
Mhm.
realize that even if you only like had one experience, one thing that's still an experience that maybe I didn't experience myself. So I can get something out of it and learn something from it. And there's value in those smaller things going on. So hopefully someday I can help someone else do the same. Even just, going back, like I keep telling people go to therapy, like absolutely. That's all I've been doing this year is like therapy has helped me so much and I will never knock therapy down again. And I even got my mom to go to therapy, which was a big deal. My mom was really hesitant to go to therapy and I got her to go to therapy too. And it was only after I said, you need to go see a therapist. It was recommended that she go, but she was like, I don't know if I want to talk about my problems. And I made her, and her therapist basically said, well, she's a good daughter, for making you go, but like it's helped a lot. It's helped, I don't know if she feels like she's helped a lot, but like, because she's had to get down to some nasty trauma from, before I was born. And, but I think people need to face some of those things, face your trauma head on because it's not going to go away. It's going to keep living in you and creating like a mass inside you that doesn't go away if you don't prod it and poke it and smash it and make it go away, And maybe I don't have major trauma like some people do, but I do have my own little here and there. So it's like therapy, people. If
Yeah.
anything I come out of this podcast today is that therapy is transformative if you are willing to go into it listening and then opening up. Not just opening up, but listening too, because they have a lot to say. They're going to listen to you, and then they're going to give you that feedback that you might need to hear. And maybe sometimes it's not what you want to hear, but it's what you should hear. I tell my daughter all the time, you're not always going to hear what you want to hear from therapy, but it's the truth.
That's yeah, but that's something, because this is my field, psychology. Um, if a therapist is just blowing smoke, they're not a good therapist. They're not a good fit. If you have a therapist that is willing to tell you the truth, that is a good therapist. And so if someone tries therapy or any kind of therapy, because there's so many different types of therapy, don't give up. And that's just the little bit that I want to add to that, because I love what you're saying. And I just want to add, for anyone that has tried it and it didn't fit, keep trying. There is someone out there that will be a good fit for you. And it's too important to just brush under the rug. And we're finally reaching a point in society where, 30 years ago, it was so taboo. Like, you must be a crazy person if you're going to therapy. And it's like, no, that this is actually the people that are dealing with their crap. And because everybody's got it. And even if you feel like your life isn't as difficult as others, that doesn't mean that it's not for you. Um, like that book, The Body Keeps the Score, it really does. So if you're holding it all in, your body is still remembering. Your body is keeping track of everything that you have been through. So as much as you may feel like it's buried, it really isn't. It'll come out in a different way. It'll still be harmful, and we're also seeing the effects that it has through generations. And so it's really important, and life is hard, especially right now. Society is chaotic, and there's a lot of things that are backwards right now, and it's needed. Therapy is needed. Different types of counsel is needed, and a lot of times the alternative methods are the most effective. So, and adults don't really get to have fun anymore.
Yeah.
So if you feel like you love horses and equine therapy would be a great fit for you, then do that. There's
Yeah.
nothing like that's a great fit for a lot of people.
And for me, it's talking. I don't mind talking. Like the thing that makes me vibe is talking. So it's like I get to talk about things going on and I get to like let it out.
Yeah.
So especially if I'm holding something in and she asks like, what do you think about this? And like, like reality sets in. I'm like, oh my God, I need to let it out. She's like, did you hear what you just said? And I'm like, no, I didn't actually. But like my daughter, for instance, seeing a therapist, she switched therapists because at some things, I think she didn't like the therapist, but sometimes the therapist was telling her the truth, but she wasn't wanting to hear it. But at the same time, she wasn't vibing with the therapist. So, we had to scramble and find a new therapist, which was fine, but it was like right at the
It's
school
hard.
year. So it was like trying to, and like, how long it takes to find a therapist, especially on certain plans. It takes a while, but I was fortunate. I found one pretty quickly. And this one does, art therapy and music therapy. And, she does, and she works with kids like Irie with giftedness and, just so hopefully, knock on wood, we get somewhere with it so that she gets her anxieties and her depression out in a healthy way.
Yeah. And
Healthy people, healthy way. There's good ways and there's bad ways to get all your depression and anxiety out. And that's what I'm learning is coping mechanisms. Like, what are my coping mechanisms? I'm reading, taking time for myself, which is what she stresses every time I see her. Did you take time for yourself in the last 2 weeks? So I have to think about it because again, I don't just automatically take time for myself. Baths. I'm a bath person. I know everybody thinks that's nasty, but I love baths.
I love baths.
But I have people that, that's gross because you're singing your dirty. I'm like, it's not
Then you
dirty.
shower after.
You
Like,
can
what do you
shower
mean?
before you get in the bath and then it's clean water. So I don't care. Pools are dirty too.
Oh, so dirty.
So dirty. Baths. Even just, even watching trash TV, just just to just watch it, because sometimes
Escapism.
it escapes. It's just like,
Hmm.
what the hell are these people doing? So just
They're worse
finding
than me. I'm
whatever it is
fine.
that is for you, you find it. And walking, I started walking with my walking partner to start
Mhm.
losing weight. I met her through the program I was doing, and she was local, so we started walking, and she's like in her 50s, so like very different kind of people. She's very religious, but you know what, she's been a great walking partner, great motivator. Um and so, find whatever it is. Exercise is great, even if you're not super active. Walking, you can walk, I promise you, you can. Even if it's to the damn mailbox, you can do it. I promise you, you can. It
Yeah.
took, many years of not doing exercise for a while, like major exercise for a while, to get back to it. And it's done wonders. Just walking does wonders. I walked 7.2 miles last week in one day.
Nice.
So you know, you can do it, even if it's only a mile.
And anyone that is disabled, you can still go have someone go with you. And so you
Go with
still get
you.
that nature time and
There's a lot of alternative exercises
mhm.
out there for people that have disabilities. If you can't leave the house, even if it's in your chair, you can do lots of leg exercises. You can use the band. There are so many cool exercises out there for people with
Yeah.
disabilities that it's fantastic that you guys have that some of those resources there at your fingertips. I would say that don't give up, because I've watched other people in the program that, I'm young, relatively young in the program for the VA for people trying to lose weight. And a lot of these people are in their, 50s and 60s. And some were like really overweight and lost, 50 or 60 pounds, just starting to walk and move, and start to pay attention to what they eat and the water they drink. So, and that mobility really gives them momentum to do other things. It creates that opportunity to actually get out and do whatever it is that makes you happy. Because if you're stuck
Hmm.
at home and you're not an introvert, I mean, introverts do like home a lot. They still like to get out too. Um, it can really wreak havoc on your mental health,
Yeah.
not being able to leave. You're stuck. So
Yeah.
it's okay
And
to reach out for help if you need it, you know.
absolutely. And it makes you feel better once you are getting that mobility in. And our bodies will literally deteriorate if you're not. So even if you're already technically a senior citizen and you feel like, oh, well, I haven't been mobile for so long since I retired or whatever, it's like, no, you have to go do this. You have to go get your body active. And it would be really beneficial to have resistance training as well, because you need to help your bones and your muscles and your
Mhm.
ligaments and all of the things it needs it. And like we are like high maintenance house plants. We
Yes,
need
we
so
are.
many different
Very much
things.
so. We still need to be watered. Very much. That's the one thing I do forget a lot, watering myself.
That's
um, as the army says, drink water and change your socks.
yeah.
Get back in like 20 minutes.
And
So
anybody that disputes the water thing, like, oh, but it makes me pee so much, that'll pass. It's just your body's letting you know you were severely dehydrated
yeah.
and it's letting out toxins and you're you need the water for sure. Um, that is something I never used to drink. I never drank water before. And then once I finally gave up sodas and cut back on juice, I started drinking water. At first, I despised it. I thought it was
I think you
disgusting.
feel like you're like watering yourself. It's weird. Like it's a mental thing. I think in my head, I'm like, ooh, I'm watering myself. Like I imagine the water going in my body.
Yeah.
Like, where is it going today? you know, it's those weird things, thoughts that come up in my head.
I love that. I like the visual.
I'm
Like,
like, I imagine them as like little you kind of like, if you've ever watched Hayao Miyazaki's like Spirited Away, the little um coal sprites, just imagine them being water sprites in my body, like, oh, you're severely deprived, and having opinions about it in my body, like, oh, they need to fill this spot, she needs to drink more water.
I love
uh
that.
I don't know. Things I think about, the shower thoughts. Um, but yeah, I mean, we're, like our body's like 70, like, well, about 60 to 70% water. So again, you need to kind of replenish that water because you get dehydrated, and that's why your skin looks, it can look dry. It can look really, really bad. And that's why like when people that tend to take care of their bodies don't have as many wrinkles because they're drinking a lot of water. They're doing the things that they're supposed to. I mean, you're still gonna get wrinkles, but it's part of the aging process too. So, and now, older people are living a lot longer. So we need to take care of ourselves longer because we can live into our hundreds now way more because of not just modern medicine, but just modern everything. We can live longer. People are living longer. Or his,
Yeah, I
he
have
doesn't
beef
want
with
to live till
hormones.
he's 80. He hopes he's dead. I'm like, thanks for abandoning me at old age.
Wow.
Like, I don't want to live that long. I'm like, well, fine. I'll
Wow.
just live with,
Like, thanks for
I'm
all
just gonna
these
go live with
years.
you. That's gonna be that. It's gonna go live with you in my
Yes.
old age.
I'm gonna have let's see, I'm gonna have a commune so all my besties can just we can live off the land and be really happy and we'll like really get into our house plant life and make
Yeah,
sure we're being healthy.
yeah. I don't know. I'm like, I don't know if Eric's around in 80 years in his 80s. We'll see. I think he'll live forever, even though he says he won't. But I don't know.
Maybe just out of spite he will.
I think
Like,
I think that's gonna happen. It's gonna be well. Who knows? He'll be broken though. So who knows? I don't know.
it's hard when you've got a
If
lot
you
of
don't
health
want to
stuff.
live into your 90s, that's fine. I'm like, I mean, that's a whole nother topic. It's a whole
Yeah.
other topic that probably should be mentioned on a nice, healthy podcast today.
Well, I think it's worth mentioning
A
because it
taboo
is,
topic. A taboo topic.
yeah, but it is no matter what your age is, it is hard to live whenever you are battling mental and physical issues. It's hard to justify it being worth it. Sometimes it gets really, really dark, and I grapple with that all the time because I have tons of health issues and I've been through way too much in life. And so I know how bad it gets. And um, maybe I'm living out of spite too. I'm just like, you know what? Haven't been taken
You're
out
gonna get
yet.
everything out of life that you wanted, so that's the key. Just think of it that way.
We just keep going anyway.
Yeah, I
Because
don't
what
know.
if it does get really amazing? Or what if you haven't reached that
You're
peak yet?
transcendence where you get to that like amazing moment. And I'm like, maybe you haven't experienced it yet, and that's why you haven't. You know what I mean? I think people move on when they've had whatever it is they're supposed to experience. Doesn't mean it's for everyone, but I think the majority, you gotta have lived whatever. And if you're a piece of crap human, then
Isn't that
sometimes
amazing?
yeah,
The
yeah.
worst people seem to, not always, but it seems like they live the longest and amazing people go too soon. It's like, it sucks for everybody that is left behind.
Like they say, like if you believe in some other higher power, sometimes they think that on another plane or they're going to whatever other plane they're meant to be on to do whatever great things they were supposed to do, you know.
Yeah, and sometimes that they were a great person and they fulfilled what they came to do. If
Mhm.
if that is a belief that someone wants to subscribe to, but considering the things that I have connected with, it's hard for me not to believe that, at least on some level.
Yeah,
I am the weirdo.
you're not a weirdo. You're just unique.
Yeah.
That's all.
And sometimes it's like, was that psychosis or was that real? And then someone will validate, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
That really
There's,
happens.
so that was your grandmother. Okay.
We need to catch up on that one.
Oh, yeah. I
I
mean, I
need a
could tell
new.
you now it's a short story, but that's definitely happened before where I mean, there's been instances that I don't want to share because I don't like I feel like I'm not a medium. And then things like that will happen. And I'm like, well, I'm still not a medium. That was just a weird thing.
It's your gift. That's what you're supposed to do. You know, it's one of
It's
your gifts. I would say it's one of your gifts. It's one of those things that comes along when it needs to.
it's so scary though, because grief is one of the most difficult things to deal with in life. and it's
Mm,
not something that will ever, ever, ever go away. And when you are doing any type of mediumship, you're dealing entirely with that person's grief. So, and as the in between from the messages coming in to the delivery, you are literally that medium. So if you don't get something spot on, if you're muddled with your message or whatever it is, then it's like, are you going to shatter them? Are you going to make them feel worse about things, or is it actually going to be of comfort of the stuff that you did get exactly spot on? Like it's just such a gray area that it's not something that I have ever comfortably like shared or offered. It just
yeah.
is one of those things that I don't know, because grief is not something that I want to make worse for anybody because it is so hard and it never ever ever goes away.
Yeah.
But then I see people like Tyler Henry and I think, oh, I love him. He's the cutest thing ever and he's so sweet and he does help a lot of people. But I don't know
Yeah,
if
but
I
that
could do it.
exchange of energies can be bad too.
Oh, I've definitely
That exchange of
seen all
energy can
sides.
not just, I mean, not that it's bad, but like, that negative feeling of energy too, because it's sad energy. So it's bad energy in its own way. Um, I think also people that play with that a little bit is just knowing that you're accepting bad energy at times and it isn't always a positive thing for your body.
Yeah. Well, anybody that wants to do any kind of spiritual work, they need, like, I see all these baby witches and they don't really know things yet. And so they're dabbling a lot, they're exploring a lot. And it's like, okay, well, you might want to be a little careful of what you're opening yourself up to because you're not going to know how to handle it whenever you open up something that you were not ready for.
Yeah.
And sometimes it, I don't know, it's such a taboo subject because there's still so many people like it's hard to prove it sometimes that it's
Mm,
legitimate and it's not just our brains because we have, the right hemisphere is very that's more of our spiritual side and our left is our logic and it's our past, present, future and this is in the present moment on the right side. And so some people might say, well, it's just your right hemisphere. That's all. It's not legitimate. Everybody has these spiritual experience potentials just because of you're tapping into that side of your
yeah.
brain, but or some other part of the brain. But even if that's the case, then if it's helping people, it's helping people. But
Yeah.
people also need to understand that there is a dark side to everything.
Oh yeah. That's that exchange.
Yeah. I just
Yeah.
happen to, I don't know, be the kind that goes everywhere, I guess. But I've learned a lot along the way too. And I think it's something that I've had for a lot longer than just this timeline, I guess.
Yeah. I believe that.
But anyway, that was like a whole derailment of things.
Okay.
um, yeah. So, was there anything else that you want to cover or go back
Right
to?
now. I mean, is there anything that you felt like you want me to touch on again or specifically go into detail on?
I I really like everything that we've covered, and I know that we could easily do many, many parts to this.
Part 10.
Yeah. We'll be in our 50s, like
Give me one
part.
topic. Just give me one topic. If you give me 50, I'll be like, okay, well, we're going to split this into like season 10, season 11.
That's be my reoccurring guest. This is such
That's
a
fine.
hobby for me, and I think it's gonna be fun because this is how I like to connect with people. I like to be on a deeper level, and I just have left it open to people that want to come on. You're one of
And
the few
then,
people that I just personally asked. I wasn't like, oh, it's
well, and
open to anybody.
if you're listening, honestly, just hearing other people talk about these kind of subjects, it's so helpful. Because sometimes
Mhm.
you don't even know what you're needing to hear, and sometimes you hear that within the big spiel I gave, but just sometimes there's something you're like, oh, I wasn't even thinking about that. No, that might be important. So just like take the time to listen to stuff like this. I mean, I don't always listen to these type of podcasts, but if I know somebody, I'm gonna listen to it, like
Yeah.
self-help is self-help, whether you read a book, whether you listen to a podcast, figure out what that is for you. If that's not us, there's, like she says, billions and billions of people on in this planet that have lots of things to share. So
And millions have a podcast.
yeah, millions have a podcast nowadays.
But that's one of the reasons, the biggest reasons why I wanted to do this, because this is community for me right now, is online, and other people can connect. The easiest way is online, and they can listen to a pod while they're getting things done, they're in the car or they're in the shower or whatever. And so you still get that kind of connecting with somebody on some level and learning from people on some level, and also relating to people. And I think most people enjoy learning about other people's lives and hearing about what they have to say. So that's why I wanted it to be open to anybody that wanted to do this. And maybe it doesn't go anywhere. Maybe it's like season one and done. Maybe it's me mostly talking to myself, because I'm probably going to have to do some solo ones at some point. But maybe I'll do that one first, the first official. I don't know, but I don't really
Well,
like
I
talking
would
about
say I
myself.
can I have one more thing to say. As like I'm literally at the end of my master's degree. I graduate
Yay!
December. And for anyone like wanting to go back to school, you're never too old to go back to school. You're never too old to learn new things. I am a lifelong learner. I tell that to everybody I know. I am always learning something. There's never, I mean, maybe there's not enough brain power sometimes to learn everything, but I am going to school with people in their 50s that this is just a continuance of their whatever the career is, or they just want to add something into their resume. You're never too old, and there's so many cool things out there. You don't have to, I mean, it doesn't have to be, and there's even just classes. You don't have to even get your degree. You can just take classes. There's lots of classes out there at most of these universities that you can just sit in on and learn something. I think I don't even remember what that term is called. You can sit in on, not necessarily be enrolled in the class, but you can sit and listen. So, and there's lots, after working for the university, there's lots of programs around the country that just give like simple classes and things online that you can learn something, whether it's money management or how to do this or how to garden. Or there's some great, if you were looking into universities, look at the gosh, I lost train of thought there, but like the University of Alaska Fairbanks, for instance, is land grant universities, which they're all over the country. I think each state usually has one, and what they do is they support sort of agriculture minded things. So they tend to have money that they get from the government to support agriculture, whether that's, doing testing and learning about soil and stuff like that. So they teach, if you want to be a gardener, you want to learn to be a gardener, there are some wonderful classes out there, master gardener classes. You can become a master gardener at any of these. They offer these classes at these universities. It's usually a small fee, a nominal fee, but you get to take this class, and it's not in the university. It's sort of like a community program, and you can learn it, and you can actually teach others how to be gardeners. So definitely take advantage of some of those things. There's so many free things out there that people don't
And through
take
the
advantage.
library.
So the library, there are so many things out there. Just don't give up. And if you've never had education, you don't have to have an education to do what I do. You don't have to have an education to be a chef. You don't have to have an education to do anything. You just have to be willing to put the work into it. But it never hurts to learn about other things. So if you are interested, definitely never too late to learn, ever. So that's my
Yeah.
last spiel.
No, I completely agree. And that's definitely something that we have in common, is that affinity for learning, like
Mm,
always just wanting to soak up as much knowledge as possible, and being a reader, and just wanting to learn in general. And I'm so excited that you're finishing up your master's. That's really
I know, it's
awesome.
crazy. I don't even believe it. I'm like, oh my God, I'm almost here.
And
So
it's like, because I'm coming near the end of my psych degree, and it's like there's finally a light at the end of the tunnel. Oh my God, finally.
yeah, it's crazy. I
Yeah,
keep
but
thinking
then
about
but then
But it's
I'm,
only opening the doors for more. So that's what people, this is not like the end, it's the beginning of another
yeah,
opportunity. And that's why I took it.
yeah.
So don't consider that the end. And yes, it's, like you're finally excited that it is ending, because I am kind of excited not to have that on my plate, but at the same time, it's going to help me open doors where I need it to do so I can do what I want to do. I don't know what that is yet, but yeah, I
That's
don't know
okay
what I
too.
want to do when I grow up yet, but we're here at 35. I still don't know what I want to do. And I meet people every day that said they don't know what they want to do when they grow up at like 40s and their 50s. They're still trying to figure that out.
Well, and they can always pivot too. And that's the
Yeah.
beauty
And
of
I know a lot of people that
things.
they pivoted from one direction to the other, and it's like because they realized that's not what they want to do in life. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I know that one of our flower sellers, she actually sells concrete blocks and asphalt. And then she's like, but my flower farm is my flower farm. It's her passion again. So, people do things they're passionate about, but they have to sometimes choose something that helps them make a living. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
until which
I,
time they can give up the other things so they can continue doing their passion. So sometimes you're funding your passion,
yes,
you're funding your
exactly.
passion.
Something that pays the bills and then having your hobbies on the
Yeah.
side that you actually enjoy. And that's pretty much what I'm doing right now. I feel like
And that's what Eric
I,
can do. I mean, he's just gonna
yeah.
run the business so he can hunt all the time.
And then you can cook what he hunts.
Yes, I can cook what he hunts, and someday I'm gonna, we're gonna get the land, so I'm gonna grow and make him grow me a garden, and because him
Nice.
and his dad have green thumbs, so not me.
Me either. I want a garden so bad one day. That's my big house goal is when I get a house again, I have to be
Yeah,
able to grow my own food. I want to know where it comes from. I want to know how it was treated. Like I know we can't really control the seeds in the soil as well as we should be able to, but the beyond that, at least you'll know
yeah.
it's yours and how it's treated. And I want to be able to do that so badly. But yeah, I think it's important that people understand that they never have to be stuck with one thing,
Nope.
even if they're in something that's paying the bills and they're learning something new on the side. It's important to follow your passion even if that changes because for me, I think university has it sucks the fun out of learning for me. I don't like having to pay so much money for it and have the deadlines and the tests.
Yeah.
It has been valuable, but it sucks the fun out of learning. And yet I am heavily considering applying for the PhD in neuroscience program, and that's insane. But I might try it anyway, even though it's one of the hardest things to get to. And before I put myself in university, I had second grade education. So I'm psycho.
No, you're
But
not. It doesn't matter what background you come from. If you put your mind to it, you can do it. You know,
yeah,
it's got to
yeah,
be your tenacity, your willingness, your drive. And not everybody has the same drive. I absolutely will meet people that are like, I don't know how you do it. And honestly, I don't know how
mhm,
I do it sometimes, but I'm like, it's just, and that's why she's like today, she was like, I don't see that you have depressive disorder. You have motive. She's like, are you unmotivated? Definitely not. You're
yeah.
definitely not unmotivated. And like she was just like, I really don't believe you have depressive disorder. But she's like, plus it can change. But she's like, I really don't think you might be depressed from time to time, but I don't think you have major depressive disorder. And so it's that conversation is, are you motivated? I
Mhm.
mean, motivation is, like my motivation is I would like to have a career outside of my husband. I would like to have a career outside of my kids. I'd like to be able to do something that contributes greatly to my household, but not also that, but have my own successes. I'd like to see what I can do, what I'm capable of. I don't know what that is yet. I've seen some of it, but even like really there's no that self-actualization is like, man, I am capable of things. I just don't know what that looks like yet and what that will be because I don't know what I'm going to get into. So
And there's something about that that is that I think we need as as a society to normalize that it's okay to not know. It's okay to explore.
Yeah.
It's okay to change things around. And if you're one of those people that wants to be a stay-at-home mom and nothing outside of that, that's okay too. And if you want to
Yeah.
work at, a fast food restaurant and you're totally happy with that, well, that's needed too. If
Yeah.
you want to be a garbage collector, that's needed in
Yeah.
society. So all of these jobs and all these careers, there is a need for it. And so it's okay to not really know what you want. It's okay to be fine with whatever you're doing. Also, it's something that I love that we're getting away from that indoctrination of, well, you have to go to school and know what you want to do when you're 13 years old and do nothing
Yeah.
but go towards that thing. And it's like, what do you mean? A teenager is a child.
Yeah. They don't even know what they want.
No.
I don't even know what I want, so I'm questioning my life and trying to tell my 13-year-old the same thing. I'm like, well, I mean, but you still got to live on your own. So you still got to learn skills that teach you things. So,
I
I
think
mean,
mindset is the biggest component, the most important component is your mindset and knowing that if you are one of those people that wants to try a bunch of things and it's okay to fail because you learn along the way, then you have to have the mindset of it's okay that I failed and I can still go to something else and pivot.
yeah, for
I like
sure.
your hair like that. That's cute.
But I'm gonna mess with my hair. I needed to tie it back. I didn't bring my clip with me. um, but yeah, please listen to the Viking Witch because she has some very interesting knowledge and information that can be shared, and she's always open with the open ear. So you will get, I think, a unique perspective and sometimes one that not a lot of people hear from her. So
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
you're welcome. Thanks for reminding me.
It's hard for me to put myself out there. So, like I said, I love that you ended up being my first guest on here because you're one of my favorite people in the world and you have been for years.
You're
So,
my favorite person too.
it's like it's so poetic that you're my first guest.
You say you're my you like you said you're weird. You're my weird friend, so I get to call you my best weird friend. So
I am perfectly like I am the weirdo. I know that and I'm so comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with myself.
I have my categories of best friends. I'm like, you're my weird friend. That is well, and you're very spiritually connected, and that's what I enjoy is like just talking to you about some of those things that not everybody's comfortable talking about. So
Yeah.
weirded out about that topic. But I have other friends that are open to it. It's just that's not their cup of tea. So it's like, or they're sitting in the midst of other religious things. So it's like, okay, that's okay.
And I
I
love hearing about religion too.
everybody's beliefs. I'm like, you can believe what you want to believe. Just don't
Yeah.
shove it on everybody else,
Right. Exactly. I
Yeah.
love learning about other religions, other beliefs, everybody's different types of spirituality and how they want to live. And I'm the same. I like to learn about it all. It's just don't push it on me.
Yeah.
That's when we have an issue. And
Very
I'm
much.
thinking of a specific quote, but censorship. I can't say it. Yeah. Anyway, thank you for being on
You're
here.
welcome. Sorry for my bags under my eyes. I'm telling you.
I think you're beautiful, and I
Well,
don't
thank
see any
you.
bags.
Like my makeup from last night. I got to see a big band concert last night. It was pretty cool.
What did you go see? Or
The
who?
Glenn Miller band came through town and I went and seen it. Here we have a local opera house, and
Hmm.
since no one would go with me, I bought a ticket for my friend Nancy, who's one of the older ladies I work with. So we went and enjoyed some big band music. It
Oh, I love that. That's
was a
awesome.
lot of fun. Yeah. So trying to get out there.
That's good. I'm proud of you. All right, so I'm going to officially wrap up the recording part of this.
Mhm.
And would you like to add where people can follow you if they want to follow you?
I am on Instagram, and let me look at my stuff. I mean, you're more than welcome to follow me. I'm not. I get weird people all the time. I don't mind strangers. Sometimes I get some nice people, and sometimes I get weird people. Let's see. I'm like Gemini 23 2006 on Instagram. I'm also on LinkedIn under. You may have to look me up. If you go on Instagram, you'll find me, and then you can find me on LinkedIn. Brittany Balthaser. I think everybody gets that confused too. But I'm also on Facebook. So, I mean, if you're anything, if she's got a link in there, she can always put my links in her bio or whatever. Happy to help connect with you. I am on the computer a lot for my job, so I will see messages and I'm usually quick to respond. Yeah, feel free to connect. And if we can create a community for food, I'm happy to work with Viking Witch to make that happen, if that's something that you guys have interest in, whether it's from the spiritual side, whether it's from just the food side, whether it's just from the connection side. Happy to help put together something if you have the interest.
I think just the community aspect of it is huge. Yeah. And I noticed in the captions it did it wrong. It's Gemini as in the zodiac sign.
That's the zodiac sign.
I will do the links.
23, 2006, all in the same word. So
it's yeah. So, but I'll link it at the bottom once I go to put this up. I think I'm gonna wait until I get some of the others recorded. That way it comes out.
Build your content and then you can do it in the right order.
Yeah, but I will get the links down there. And if anyone does reach out to her, be nice, because this is my bestie and I will come for you in ways that you're not ready for if you're not nice to her. And
hopefully you have nobody weird on here, but we'll
I hope not. I hope not.
I mean, I expect weird, but not that weird, you know.
My kind of weird, not like the weird, creepy weird.
No, the inappropriate weird. So,
yeah,
weirdos on there.
Yeah.
Pics, please. I'm married. I'm happily married. If I was in that time of my life, maybe. But I'm not. I'm too old to see nasty dick pics.
Oh, never, ever, ever send that unsolicited, ever. If that's not your person, just don't do it.
They're not that pretty to begin with.
And we're gonna judge. We're gonna judge.
We're gonna judge hard. I'm gonna send it to her and I'm gonna be like, ha ha ha. We might have to create a whole page for that. So
and we will. So don't do it.
I might even draw pictures on them, and
we're smut readers. So
we've got we read a lot of smut, so we know better.
I love the turn that this took.
Dirty books days are not over. I have quite a few. So
oh god, I have been on such a dark romance kick. I'm absolutely
oh yeah.
It's one of my favorite genres, and that's all I've been reading lately to get a break from school.
Oh my gosh, that's a whole nother. We could do that. We could do that as a podcast. Yeah, let's do that.
Let's definitely do that.
Let's do that.
Yes.
Somebody wants to hear about what the alternative to romance, and sometimes they do involve romance. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're dark and dirty, and that's sometimes I have to put the book down because I don't necessarily think it's appropriate even for me. Depending on the topic that's at hand, there's a lot. And like, I love how the newer books are starting to come out with like disclaimers on like what's in it. Cause sometimes I'm like, oh, maybe I don't want to read that. Maybe I mean, I'm all about sexuality, being open to your sexuality, but there's some topics I don't like to read about, age play being one of them. So,
oh yeah. So I see trigger warnings and I'm like, yes, this book is for me, because I will
there's
get
some trigger warnings. I'm like, let me look at this trigger warning and see what's in it. I'm like, nope, not reading that.
So for like Haunting and Hunting Adeline, I don't normally read the trigger warnings, but that I did see that it involved trafficking, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to go there at all. But even though it is really hard to read about, the author H.D. Carlton did amazing with her research, and it was hard to read those parts, but the books are phenomenal and I absolutely fell in love with them. And Zaid is like my favorite morally gray. but yeah, we're definitely gonna have to do a book pod, just talk about books and being a
Yeah.
reader and all the things, because that would be so much fun.
Yeah, definitely.
So we'll schedule that one next. That'll be part two.
Part two, dirty part two. I'll think of a unique thing to say next time. Like this is something part two.
Maybe we can even like prepare some lists and stuff for
Yeah,
like
I have to go through some
recommendations.
books. I don't read a lot of mainstream stuff anymore, so I just don't have the time. I would read more books if I had time. But
Audiobooks are great. They're very
my
helpful.
brain capacity just doesn't have it in me. And I do listen to podcasts, but not books. So I listen to horror podcasts. So if you want some recommendations,
Ooh,
horror and anthologies and stuff. There's really good ones out there. I was just on one of the forums I follow on Facebook for one of the podcasts. I haven't listened to them in a while because they've definitely gotten bigger and bigger. So, but I've listened to like the first two seasons, and man, I mean, they've blown up. They do like live radio shows too, so it's like pretty neat what they do. You
that
would
sounds
like that
fun.
one. It's called Old Appalachian, the Old Gods of Appalachia. So you would like
Oh,
very
yeah.
witchy, very dark, very good.
That's right up my alley. Yeah. All right.
Accents are really on point. So
So my natural accent's gonna come out by listening to this.
yeah,
Because I usually do pretty good containing it until I'm hearing it. And then it's
yeah.
like, nope.
Like West Virginia's, like Tennessee, a little bit of mix of those areas because he talks a lot about that area. So
That's
I think
amazing.
West Virginia is mostly what they're primarily from. I don't know. I don't know.
All right, we're gonna schedule a part two. We're
Okay.
gonna do this soon. I can't wait. But I love you
Yeah.
so much and thank you for
I
being
love
on
you
here.
too. Bye.
Bye.
Let's see.